All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, Steve Wells, coming at you. And we are going to recap week 4, man. It's been a busy week of SWAC football. Most people kind of wrapping up their non-conference schedules, got a few non-conference games left throughout the season. SWAC play basically begins next week. So, um, the non-conference schedule portion of the season was a rough one. I'm gonna go back and basically calculate the final. Well, I don't want to say final, but calculate the record through the first 4 weeks of SWAC football in non-conference play and see how we came out. Didn't really go well this week at all in non-conference play. Matter of fact, only 2 SWAC teams won games this weekend, and both games were against other SWAC opponents. One counted in the standings, one didn't. So it was a pretty rough non-conference week for the conference. Week 5 pick'em contest is active. The link will be posted this afternoon on my Twitter account, which is Swag Talk 76. I'll also be on my Facebook and Instagram, which are both Swag Talk. And the link will be in the description for this video as well. So make sure y'all peep that out and get with it. Got 5 games coming this upcoming week, all SWAC games, so it should be an entertaining week. But let's look at this week of action that was week 4. And we'll start off with Bethune-Cookman taking on Clark Atlanta. Clark Atlanta has a very, very good passing offense. They are a solid team, but this was a bad loss for Bethune-Cookman no matter how you slice it. At home, up 28-7 after 1 quarter, and you only scored 9 points the remaining portion of the game and lose 38-37 on a spectacular 55-yard field goal. You know, I got to give Leonardo Cabrera his props. That was a hell of a field goal that he kicked, but it should have never come to that. Bethune-Cookman really should have put this game away. And, you know, now you're at 0-4 going into conference play, coming off of a D2 loss against a team who is 3-0 for the first time, I think they said, in like 50 years. So not a great way to slice it, and really a waste of a good offensive effort for Bethune-Cookman. Just was not a great effort. But like I said, Bethune-Cookman jumped out to a 28-7 first quarter lead on a Courtney Reese 29-yard pass from Cam Ransom. Cam Ransom had a 7-yard touchdown run. Darnell Dees caught a 70-yard pass from Ransom for a touchdown. And Kobe Stewart had a 54-yard touchdown pass for Bethune-Cookman, touchdown reception for Bethune-Cookman. David Martin had an 11-yard pass reception from David Wright for Clark Atlanta to get him that only score of the first quarter. Bethune-Cookman would get a Cade Hector field goal from 23 yards out to go up 31-7. Delancey Tolliver would catch a 5-yard pass from Armani Harris to make the score 31-14. And then Bethune-Cookman will get another field goal right at the half to go into the locker room up 34-14. So you up 20, you going into the half, things seem like you should be, cruising, but Clark comes out and scores 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, both from Wright to Harris, one from 28 and one from 27. And now you're going into the fourth quarter up 34-28. At the end, and right at the end of the third quarter, Bethune-Cookman kicks a field goal to go up 37-28. So you go into the fourth quarter up by 9. And you feel like, this is a situation that you can kind of escape. It's not pretty, but you're in a position where you look like you can seal a deal. But you get, like I said, Clark gets a field goal. He gets a touchdown with 4:12 left in the fourth quarter. Another connection from Wright to Harris, this time from 7 yards out. And now the score is 37-35 with 4 minutes and 12 seconds left. And Bethune-Cookman still, they're still in a good spot. Yes, it now looks like you're gonna have an ugly win, but you still look like you're gonna get a win. And you get the ball at your own 35 with 4 minutes and 5 seconds left. And basically, you don't do much with the football. You drive to the Clark 41 and end up having to punt from your own 45 after you take a horrible sack on 3rd and 3 from the Clark Atlanta 41-yard line. Field punt, great punt by Anthony Frederick, down out of bounds at the 1. Clark, they drive, man. They get themselves in a good. They get themselves down to their own 41, and then Bethune Cookman gets a big stop, and then they get a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, which puts the ball at Bethune Cookman 44, and Clark was able to drive to the Bethune Cookman 38, where they kicked the field goal from 55 yards out to win this game. And that drive was just a microcosm of how this game was. It's like Bethune Cookman seemed like they had this game on lock. Clark, who is a passing team, just never let that phase them. David Wright is a gunslinger, man. He's a guy who has that mentality that he can do anything he wants on that field. Him and Amani Harris have a great connection, and they both play balls to the wall, and they just stayed with the course, and they outscored Bethune Cookman, and it was just not a great game for Bethune Cookman at the end of the day. 28 first downs for Clark, 27 for Bethune. 17 for Bethune. Clark ran for 72 yards on 30 carries, 2.4 yards per carry. Bethune Cookman 95 yards on 24 carries, 4 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. 379 yards passing for Clark Atlanta, 31 of 50, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Bethune Cookman 382 yards of offense through the air, 22 of 32, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 451 yards for Clark on 80 plays, 5.6 yards per play. They did fumble twice, but didn't lose either. They had 9 penalties for 67 yards. Bethune Cookman, 477 yards on 56 plays, 8.5 yards per play. They fumbled 3 times and lost 2 of them. And they had 12 penalties for 117 yards. So penalties, turnovers, those kind of things are just deadly to teams. And it really came back to bite Bethune Cookman. 32 yard per punt average for Clark, 44 for Bethune. Bethune had 3 punts inside the 20. Like I said, Frederick was a beast punting the ball on Saturday, but nothing else really was spectacular. Clark 5 of 12 on 3rd down. Bethune Cookman 4 of 10. Clark 1 for 2 on 4th down. Bethune 0 for 1. Panthers 3 of 3 in the red zone. Bethune 5 of 6. The Panthers 3 sacks. Bethune Cookman has 4 sacks. Individually, David Wright 30 of 49 for 374 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 4 times. Cam Ransom 22 of 31. 382 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. David Martin for Clark, 8 carries, 44 yards. Cam Ransom led Bethune Cookman with 11 carries for 79 yards and 1 touchdown. And he had a great game, but the rest of the offense in terms of the running game just was not there. Your running backs just did not get it done. Basically, your running backs combined for 26 yards on 11 carries. So just not a good game for you offensively in that aspect. In a game I thought you might be able to run the ball in. Jamal Jones had 10 catches, 127 yards for Clark. Harris 6 for 94 and 3 touchdowns. Kobe Stewart had 2 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown for Bethune Cookman. Malik Huggins 3 for 74. James Somerset led the Panthers with 8 tackles along with Dalil Watkins. Tackles for loss. Eric Searcy had 2.5 for Clark, and he also had 1.5 sacks to lead the defense. Bethune Cookman was led by Raymond Woody III with 7 tackles on the night. And a huge pass breakup, which led to that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in the 4th quarter. Jefferson LaFontaine, he had two tackles for loss, and he also had 1 sack. Brown had 1.5 sacks on the night, and Watts had a 77-yard interception return. And like I said, just no real way to slice this and make it look any kind of way, man. This was a rough game to lose. You know, it's tough to lose these kind of games. You know, you don't, losing D2 games, they hurt. And that was just a tough outing for Bethune-Cookman as they came up short. They let one slide and it bit them in the butt. Next is FAMU taking on Troy. This was a game that FAMU was pretty competitive in for a good stretch of the game. Couldn't get any touchdowns, but they kept themselves in this game for a while before Troy kind of started to kind of pull away. FAMU got a couple field goals from Cameron Gillis in the first quarter, and they trailed 7-6 after one. Damian Teller had a 40-yard run for Troy to put them up 7-0 before FAMU kicked two field goals in the first quarter to trail 7-6. Devontae Ross caught a 20-yard pass from Goose Crowder to put Troy up 14-6 with 46 seconds left in the second quarter. Gillis would get his third field goal of the game with no time left in the half, or with 5 seconds left in the first half, sending FAMU into the half down 14-9. Ross would catch another touchdown from Crowder, this time from 44 yards out to extend the lead to 21-9. 5:29 left in the third. Gillis would get a 43-yard field goal for FAMU to bring the Rattlers back to within 9, 21-12. And then Troy would get two touchdowns in the fourth quarter. One Damian Ross 7-yard pass from Crowder to make score 27-12. And then Ross would catch a 98-yard pass. He would score a 98-yard touchdown from Crowder to go up 34-12, and that would be your final margin. FAMU finished with 19 first downs, Troy 24. Rattlers still having a tough time running the ball this season, 55 yards on 28 carries, 2 yards per carry, 212 yards on the ground for Troy, 6.4 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. FAMU 288 yards through the air, 25 of 39, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Troy 295 through the air, 18 of 25, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. FAMU 343 yards of offense, 67 plays, 5.1 yard per play. They did fumble once, but they didn't lose it. They had 13 penalties for 110 yards. Troy 507 yards on the night, 58 plays, 8.7 yards per play. They didn't fumble at all. And they had 12 penalties for 125 yards. So another game with a ton of penalties. There's been some sloppy football in that aspect. FAMU 34.4 yard per punt average, Troy 32.7. FAMU was 2 of 13 on third down, 2 of 13 on third down, 2 of 4 on fourth down, 4 of 5 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. Troy 6 of 11 on third down, 1 of 2 on fourth down. They were 2 for 2 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks. Individually, Daniel Richardson 25 of 39 for FAMU, 288 yards, no touchdown, no interception, 2 sacks. Goose Crowder, 18 of 25, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack. Thad Franklin led FAMU with 10 carries for 46 yards. Damian Taylor led Troy with 15 carries for 109 yards and 1 touchdown. Jamari Gassett had a big game for FAMU. He caught 10 passes for 141 yards on the night with a longer 48. Devontae Ross, 11 catches, 229 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Troy, including that 98-yarder. FAMU was led by Nayron Jenkins with 8 tackles. Jenkins, Westmoreland, Donald, and Fox each had 1 tackle for loss. Jenkins had a sack. Troy was led by Jordan Stringer with 8 tackles. He also had 2 tackles for loss to lead the defense. And Lee and Thomas had sacks for Troy. When you can't run the football, it hurts you in a game like this. The game was there for you early. Troy, even with the numbers they put up, they still didn't basically run you out of there. So you still had opportunity, but getting down the field and kicking field goals and not being able to score touchdowns in games like this would kill you. And defensively, FAMU continues to struggle against the run. So they have to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure some things out as they get into SWAC play. this upcoming week against Bama A&M. So they have a chance to turn things back around since they're going to be starting conference play on Saturday. So it's not obviously all hope is not lost for pretty much anybody that lost on Saturday. But you hate to drop games like this when the opportunity is there. Missed tackles, mistakes, penalties, that just wrecks you. And this was just one of those kind of games. So Troy pulled it out. They get their first win. FAMU drops to 2-2 on the season as they head into conference play. Uh, Central Arkansas took on Arkansas Pine Bluff. This game was kind of tight early. Pine Bluff hung around in this game early. The score was actually 14-10 after one quarter, and then Central Arkansas would score 35 points between the second and third quarters to basically put this game away. Uh, Pine Bluff actually led 3-0 when they got a 33-yard field goal from Trey Glimpf. And then UCA would get a Sean Derrick Powell 59-yard touchdown run to go up 7-3. Monty Roan will catch a 26-yard pass from Mekhi Higgins to give the Golden Lions another lead at 10-7. That came with 6:25 left in the first quarter. And then the floodgates would open for Central Arkansas. Powell would get a 13-yard run. Malachi Henry would catch a 62-yard pass from Will McElvain. Darius Hale will catch an 11-yard touchdown pass, and then Hale will get a 3-yard touchdown run to wrap up the first half at 35-10. In the third quarter, Hale will get another touchdown run from 3 yards out to put the Bears up 42-10, and then he would get a 1-yard touchdown run to make the score 49-10, and then Landon Chambers would get a 2-yard touchdown run with 11-17 left in the game to put the Bears up 56-10 before Roan would catch another touchdown pass from Higgins, this time from 12 yards out with 3:12 left in the game to make the final margin 56-17. Central Arkansas 32 first downs, Pine Bluff 16, 309 yards rushing for the Bears, 42 carries, 7.4 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns. Pine Bluff 63 yards rushing on 23 carries, 2.7 yards per carry, no touchdowns, 257 yards through the air for Central Arkansas, 21-24, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Pine Bluff 239 yards passing, 15-35, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 566 yards for the Bears, 66 plays, 8.6 yards per play, no fumbles. They had 12 penalties for 109 yards. 302 yards for Pine Bluff on 58 plays, 5.2 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles and lost 1, so 2 turnovers on the night, and 11 penalties for 85 yards. That will kill you every time. 30-yard average per punt for Central Arkansas, and 41-yard per punt average for Pine Bluff. Central Arkansas was 5 of 17 on third down, didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 6 of 6 in the red zone, and they had 3 sacks. Pine Bluff 5 of 13 on third down. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 2 for 2 in the red zone, and they had no sacks as a defense. Individually, McElvain 18 of 21 for Central Arkansas, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Mekhi Higgins 15 of 35, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. Powell led Central Arkansas with 11 carries for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, Chambers had 15 carries for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Hale, 9 carries, 54 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, like I said, they had their way with Pine Bluff on the ground. Higgins led Pine Bluff with 12 carries for 25 yards. BJ Curry had 5 carries for 25 yards. Pine Bluff only ran the ball 23 times, and they did, I don't know if it was, I don't know what the situation was, but none of their top backs played, or none of their top backs got carries. And obviously that's pretty telling. I don't know if guys were banged up and they held them out, or they just whatever. I don't know what the case was in that situation. I'm gonna try to go back and watch the game and see any reason why those guys didn't get any touches. But they didn't, they just didn't have any running attack in this game. Through the air, Malachi Henry had 4 catches for 87 yards for Central Arkansas. held 5 for 56. Christian Gamage led Pine Bluff with 2 catches for 74 yards. Dawkins 6 for 62. Rome 4 for 56 and 2 touchdowns. Demetrius Charles led Central Arkansas with 7 tackles. Darius Cobbs has 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the defense. And Wilson and Cobbs each had 1 sack apiece to lead the defense. Wilson also had an interception on the night. Pine Bluff was led by Green with 8 tackles, Jamarlin Green with 8 tackles, tackles for loss. Kevon Majors had 1.5, and they didn't have any sacks or any interceptions. So this was, like I said, this was a tight game after one, and then the floodgates opened, and Pine Bluff just couldn't recover, and they obviously got ran out of the stadium, literally, giving up over 300 yards on the ground. They get a bye week this week, so they have an opportunity to kind of regroup and figure some things out, because they had that really good game against Arkansas Baptist, which was to be expected. The number of points they scored was a surprise, but you didn't expect them to lose that game. And then they came out against Tennessee State last week and had some flashes, but still got blown out basically. And then in this game, you again looked like you were gonna be in this game early, and then it just fall apart. So they have some questions to answer. I do think Mekhi Higgins is looking okay. Um, Everything else on the offense is just not there, and the defense cannot stop anybody, pretty much for the most part, other than Arkansas Baptist. So they have to come out of that bye week focused and ready to make they push as they start SWAC play on October 5th. That takes us to our next game, and that is Nickel State taking on Valley again. Another game that just was ugly. This game was very ugly. It was never close. Valley didn't really put up much of a fight. There's no real way to sugarcoat this. Nichols had their way with Valley. They led 21-0 after 1 quarter. Brock had a 33-yard run for Nichols. Ian Rodriguez had a 34-yard run for Nichols. And Quincy Brown had a 6-yard pass from Pat McQuaid to put the Colonels up 21-0 after the first quarter. Second quarter, Colin Guggenheim had a 5-yard touchdown run. Brock had an 80-yard pass from McQuaid. And then Corey Warren Jr. had a 28-yard touchdown run, along with Gabe Showalter kicking a 37-yard field goal to make the halftime score 45-0. Nichols would get 3 touchdowns in the second half. Brock had a 68-yard run. Karaz Johnson had a 10-yard run, and then Warren had a 12-yard run to give the Colonels a 66-0 victory over Valley. Valley they did not show up. 8 first downs in this game, 28 for Nichols. Minus 7 yards rushing in the game for Valley on 18 carries. Negative 0.4 yards per carry. Nichols 455 yards on the ground, 57 carries. They had 8 yards per carry and 6 touchdowns. Valley 166 yards through the air, 12 of 36, 6 interceptions. Valley just could not. They could not keep their hand. They just could not keep the ball. No touchdowns, obviously. 202 yards for Nichols, 17 of 22 passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Valley 159 yards of offense, 55 plays, 2.9 yards per play. They no fumbles. They had 3 penalties for 25 yards. So if you want to take anything away from this game, they didn't have any penalties. Nichols 657 yards of offense, 79 plays, 8.3 yards per play, 4 fumbles, and they lost 1. They had 5 penalties of 55 yards. Valley 46-yard average per punt. Nichols 47. Valley was 0 for 12 on third down. They were 1 for 2 on fourth down. They got in the red zone 2 times but couldn't score. Nichols 8 of 15 in the red zone. 8 of 15 on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down, 5 of 5 in the red zone, and they had 4 sacks. I want to see where Valley got into the red zone. They got let's see. They got into the red zone in the third quarter as they let's see, they started at the Nichols 8 and they turned it over on downs. Um, then they got to where else did they get to the? I don't see it. But they just did, they just did not have any positive momentum in this game. Individually, Ruben Lee 7 of 16 for Valley, 122 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. Tajarian Williams had 3 interceptions. Jaden Sisk had 2 interceptions. So basically, every quarterback they put out there turned the ball over. Pat McQuaid was 15 of 20 for Nichols, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Williams led Valley with 3 carries, 5 carries for 15 yards. Brock led Nichols with 8 carries for 132 yards. Warren 12 for 124. Guggenheim 10 for 78. Nathan Rimbert had 6 catches for 106 yards for Valley, so that was a bright spot. Brock had 2 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown for Nichols. Brown 5 for 66 and a touchdown. Johnson had 1 for 10 and a touchdown. Valley was led by Shaughnessy Triplett with 8 tackles. He also had 1 tackle for loss. One of only 2 tackles for loss on the night. No sacks, no interceptions. Nichols was led by Alex Villavaso. He had 5 tackles. He also had a tackle for loss. They had let's see, they had 7 tackles for loss on the night. 5 guys had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Sacks. White and Sharkey each had 1 sack apiece. Interceptions. They had 6 guys with interceptions. Delmato, Refuge, Lee, Shaheen, Williams, and Lindsey each had an interception for Nichols. And like I said, this was just an ugly game, man. You got to, there's not much to take from this game. You just got to burn it, man. It's 4 games on the road to open up the season. It seemed like Valley was kind of turning the corner after the Lamar game. Then they got blowed out big time against Murray State, and then they came in this game and just did not have anything going at all. They open up their home slate for their first home game is next Saturday against Alcorn, which is honestly an interesting game. Um, now that Alcorn isn't looking that good right now, so that's going to be an interesting game to look at. And like I said, we'll preview it next week. But just a bad outing for Valley. Not much to really take from it. You just got to build on it and grow. Another game that the margin definitely caught me off guard. I actually had Alabama and them winning this game, and they lost 59-16. Another game where they just were not in this game from the jump. They trailed 24-3 after 1 quarter. Austin P got a field goal to open up the scoring. A&M got a field goal with 9:02 left in the first to tie the game up at 3. And from there, Austin P scored 3 touchdowns in a row in the first quarter. Ramon Copeland had 2 touchdowns. He had a 10-yard pass from Austin Smith. Jesse Johnson had a 21-yard fumble recovery, scoop and score for a touchdown. And then Copeland will get an 82-yard punt return. So 1 offensive touchdown, defensive touchdown, and special teams touchdown kind of turned the tide of this game. Then Lavelle Wright had 2 touchdowns in the second quarter and 1 in the third to kind of really blow the doors off this game. He had a 53-yard run, a 6-yard run, and a 62-yard run to make the score 45-3 in the beginning of the third quarter. Caden Williams would get a 3-yard run for Austin P. Donovan Price would catch a 7-yard pass from Cornelius Brown to get Alabama A&M on the board back on the board in the fourth quarter, 52-9. And then Corey Richardson would get a 13-yard run for Austin P to make the score 59-9 before DJ Moffitt would get a 1-yard run for Alabama A&M to make the score 59-16, which would be the final margin of the game. Alabama A&M 11 first downs, 21 for Austin P. Only 57 yards rushing for A&M, which I thought would be a strength for them. 30 carries, 1.9 yard per carry, 1 touchdown. 331 yards on the ground for Austin P. 49 carries, 6.8 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. 202 yards through the air for Alabama A&M. 17 of 30, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. 10 of 14 for Austin P. 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 259 yards for the Bulldogs. 60 plays, 4.3 yards per play. They fumbled twice and lost one. They had 7 penalties for 51 yards. The Governors 445 total offense, 63 plays, 7.1 yard per play, no fumbles, and they only had 2 penalties for 11 yards. 46.7 yard average for Alabama A&M. Austin P. a 56 yard average on only 2 punts. 2 of 13 on third down for the Bulldogs. 1 or 2 on fourth down. They were 2 or 2 in the red zone, and they had 3 sacks. 5 of 11 for the Governors on third down. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 4 or 5 in the red zone, and they had 3 sacks. Individually for A&M, Brown 13 of 23 for 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 3 sacks. Austin Smith 10 of 13 for 114 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 3 sacks. Donovan Eaglin 12 carries for 29 yards for the Bulldogs, as they just didn't have any running game going at all. Lavelle Wright had 8 carries for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns. Corey Richardson had 9 for 102 and a touchdown. So they just had their way on the ground. DeQuadron Welch had 3 catches for 48 yards for the Bulldogs. Jaden Barnes, 4 catches for 56 yards for the Governors. Lynn Petway had 11 tackles for A&M. Jamarion Ellis had 4 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. So that he had a pretty solid game, and 5 tackles for the Bulldogs. And like I said, they had an interception by Gully. He returned it 33 yards. Deion Hunter led Austin P with 7 tackles. They had 4 guys with 1 tackle for loss apiece. Spearman, Patterson, Knifley, and Skoglund. They each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Spearman and Knifley each had sacks to lead the defense, and Anderson and Johnson had interceptions for the Governor. So another game that just got out of hand right out the gate. You know, I mean, it was a 3-3 game, and then 3 touchdowns later, Austin P was up 24-3, and A&M just could not get it going. They could not run the ball. You know, this team, you know, they came into this game off of 2 D2 games or 2 sub D1 games, and that just, you know, I guess it's tough when you get back to FCS competition. Austin P was struggling coming into this game, but they were able to find some success running the ball, which is a theme in these games this week. SWAC defenses have been really bad against the run in these non-conference games this week. So a lot of teams just got to kind of regroup. That takes us to our next game, which is Texas Southern and Lamar. This was a missed opportunity for TSU. They let this game slip out of their hands. They led this game pretty much for the bulk of the game. They led 10-0 at the half as Gustavo Romero kicked a 20-yard field goal, and Sean Xavier Lewis had a 7-yard run for TSU to put them up 10-0 at the half. Lamar will get 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. Kalen Griffin will get a 1-yard run, and then Devin Gibbs will catch a 13-yard pass from Jacoby Lagino to go up 13-10. Lewis would get a 6-yard run for TSU with 3:48 left in the game to put the Tigers up 17-13. And then with 1:05 left in the game, Griffin will get a 3-yard run for Lamar to put them up 20-17. And that was a 12-play, 76-yard drive that took 2:40 off the clock. I want to kind of take a look at their drive and then TSU's last drive to kind of just fill it out. Lamar, let's see what they started that drive at their own 24. On first down, they had a false start, which put them back to their 19. They ran for 2 yards on 2nd and 13. From their own 21, they had a 26. They had an 8-yard pass to the 26. 3rd and 5, they completed a pass to their own 40 for 10 yards. Let's see. Yeah, they 10-yard. They caught it and got to their own 40. They had on 1st and 10. They had an incomplete pass. On 2nd and 10, they completed a pass at the 46 for 9 yards. Out of bounds. They took a 2-minute warning. 3rd and 1 from their own 48. They ran for 1 yard to the 47. TSU had unsportsmanlike conduct, which put the ball at the TSU 38. Lamar took a timeout with 1:51 left in the game. On 1st down, they had a 15-yard run to the TSU 23. They had an incomplete pass on 1st and 10 from the TSU 23. 2nd and 10, they had a run up the middle for 2 yards. They took a timeout with 1:34 left in the game. Then they threw an incomplete pass on 3rd and 8. 4th and 8, they threw an interception, but TSU was offsides. So that made it 4th and 3. They threw incomplete on 4th and 3. TSU was offsides again, gives them a 1st down at the TSU 11. TSU takes a timeout. They would run for 8 yards down to the 3-yard line, and then they would run up the middle for a 3-yard touchdown to basically win the game. So 3 huge penalties for TSU in that drive, kept extending the drive for Lamar. TSU would get the ball at their own 23. They would run the ball for 7 yards to their 36, take a timeout with 28 seconds left on the clock. They would throw incomplete on 1st and 10, and then they would get sacked back to their own 23, and the clock would run out there. TSU did get an intentional grounding on that 1st down play, which put them back to their own 27. So just not a good end of the game for TSU, as they had their chances and they just bad play, bad penalties. Really shot them in the foot. They had 18 first downs on the night, 17 for Lamar, 223 yards rushing for TSU, 49 carries, 4.6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. 186 yards on the ground for Lamar, 35 carries, 5.3 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. TSU only threw for 55 yards on the night, 6 of 10 passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Lamar only 63 yards through the air, 9 of 17, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 278 yards total offense for TSU, 59 plays, 4.7 yards per play. They fumbled twice, didn't lose either. They had 14 penalties for 94 yards. Lamar, 249 yards of offense on 52 plays, 4.8 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles, lost 1. They had 12 penalties for 102 yards. 53-yard average per punt for TSU, 44 for Lamar. This was an hard game. These 2 teams only combined for 5 punts in a low-scoring game. TSU was 3 of 10 on 3rd down, 1 for 2 on 4th down. They were 3 of 3 in the red zone, didn't have a sack. Lamar, 5 of 12 in the on 3rd down, 1 of 1 on 4th down. They were 3 for 3 in the red zone, and they had 3 sacks. TSU was led individually by Jordan Davis with 6 of 10 passing for 55 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, 3 sacks. Lagino was 9 of 16 for Lamar, 63 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Quintel Quinn had 23 carries with 149 yards for TSU, so he had a big game. Averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Lewis had 3 carries for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns. Griffin led Lamar with 22 carries for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kieran Charlo had 2 catches for 23 yards for TSU. As Azaha Jones had 3 catches for 27 yards for Lamar. Javius Williams had 11 tackles for TSU. He also had 1 tackle for loss. Stephon Wright had 1.5 tackles for loss for TSU. No sacks, no interceptions. Lamar was led by Ken Savannah with 11 tackles. He also had 2 tackles for loss and 2 sacks to lead the Cardinals. Cody Kennedy had 2 tackles for loss as well. Again, no interceptions for either team. And like I said, this was just a game of missed opportunities. That last drive for TSU, or the last drive for Lamar, was just brutal for TSU. multiple penalties that just, one was a unsportsmanlike conduct, which is automatic first down. Then 4th and 8, you get the stop on an interception and you jumped off sides. So it's 4th and 3. 4th and 3, you jump off sides again and you give them a first down. So it just, it was just a horrible final drive on both sides for them that did them in. This was a missed opportunity for sure. That was a game they should have won. There's no other way to look at it. Next game is Alcorn and McNeese. This was a game I thought Alcorn would, be able to come out and make some things happen, but they just were were not in this game. McNeese jumped up 21-0 in the first quarter. They were up 28-7 at the half, and they would jump out to a 35-7 lead before Alcorn would score their only other touchdown. The trail 35-14 before McNeese would get a final touchdown in the third quarter and win 42-14. Alcorn, let's see, McNeese had a 50-yard touchdown pass from McDowell to Senegal. Barbie had a 5-yard run. Jackson would get a punt return for a touchdown for McNeese. Warren would catch a 32-yard pass from Vaughn for Alcorn. Late in the second quarter, and then with 3 seconds left in the half, D'Angelo Durham will get a 2-yard run for McNeese to put them in the locker room at 28-7. McDowell will get a 14-yard run to put McNeese up 35-7. Vaughn will get a 25-yard run for Alcorn to make score 35-14, and then Jermichael Carter will catch a 5-yard pass from McDowell to wrap up the scoring. Alcorn 21 first downs, McNeese 21 first downs. Alcorn did run the ball for 217 yards on the night, 5.6 yards per carry on 39 carries. They had 1 touchdown. McNeese 211 yards rushing on 36 carries, 5.9 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. Alcorn 204 yards through the air, 16 of 41, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. McNeese 246 yards through the air, 16 of 23, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alcorn 421 yards of offense, 80 plays, 5.3 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles, lost 1. They had 10 penalties for 109 yards. McNeese 457 yards on the night, 59 plays, 7.7 yards per play. They had 2 penalties. They had 2 fumbles and lost both. 8 penalties for 80 yards for them. Alcorn only averaged 27.7 yards per punt. McNeese 44.2. 6 of 18 on third down for Alcorn. They 0 for 2 on fourth down. They were 0 for 2 in the red zone, no sacks. McNeese 3 of 9 on third down. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 4 of 5 in the red zone and 3 sacks. Individually, Xavier Vaughn 16 of 41, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Clifton McDowell 15 of 21, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks. Vaughn led Alcorn with 16 carries for 127 yards. Big game running the ball for him and 1 touchdown. Sewell had 13 carries for 74 yards. McDowell 8 for 76 for McNeese and a touchdown. Barbie 10 for 76 and a touchdown. Damian Jones led Alcorn with 7 catches for 105 yards. Jonathan Harris had 5 for 60 for McNeese. Bakari McCall led Alcorn with 7 tackles. Malachi Bailey had 2 tackles for loss, no sacks. Interception was by Edwin Summerauer. McNeese was led by Jake Held with 7 tackles. Marquez White had 2 tackles for loss. And White, Lewis, and Allen each had 1 sack for McNeese apiece. Interception was by Severa. This was just one, like I said, another one of those games, another slow start. McNeese jumped out on Alcorn, and Alcorn just could not recover. So they head into SWAC play against Valley. In a game they have to regroup and win. You have to find a way to pick up these wins and get yourself right. Our next to last game is the only conference game on the schedule, and that was Southern and Prairie View. Jags won this game 31-24 in overtime. Prairie View really had control of this game for a good stretch of this game. Southern led 3-0 for the entirety of the first quarter. Southern scored on its opening drive on a field goal. Prairie View would get their first points with 9 minutes and 55 seconds left in the second quarter on a 3 yard McDowell touchdown run. That drive, Southern had like three costly penalties on that drive, all 15 yards, to really push Prairie View down the field. They were able to capitalize and score. And then with 20 seconds left in the first half, Chris Heron will catch a 45-yard pass from Cameron Peters to send the Panthers into the locker room up 14-3. Third quarter, Southern's offense kind of came alive. They had a solid drive to open up the second half, missed the field goal, got the ball back, and Kendrick Grimes will get an 8-yard touchdown run. 8-yard pass for Noah Biden to make the score 14-10. And then Prairie View hit a big play downfield from Peter to Cavill for 72 yards, put the Panthers up 21-10. Southern would get a touchdown with 59 seconds left in the third quarter when Whitfield would catch a 41-yard pass from Biden. 2-point conversion was no good, 21-16 at that point. With 5:41 left in the game, Prairie View would kick a 48-yard field goal to go up 24-16. Southern would get a good drive down the field in the fourth quarter with 2:32 left in the game. C.J. Russell would get a 4-yard touchdown run. Noah Biden would complete a 2-point conversion to Quay Davis. 24-24 was the score there. And then in overtime, Southern would score on one play. Kendrick Grimes' 25-yard touchdown run. Jags led 31-24. Prairie View got the ball down to the Southern half-yard line. Penalty pushed them back to the 20. 2 sacks later, Prairie View ran out of downs, and Southern won that game 31-24. 18 first downs for the Jaguars, 17 for the Panthers. 191 yards on the ground for Southern, 35 carries, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. 109 yards rushing for Prairie View, 54 carries, 2 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. 189 yards passing for Southern, 16-29, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 193 yards passing for Prairie View, 9-20, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 380 yards of offense for Southern, 64 plays, 5.9 yards per play. 3 fumbles, lost 1, 12 penalties for 110 yards. Prairie View, 302 yards, 74 plays, 4.1 yards per play. They had no fumbles at all. 11 penalties for 105 yards. Just a sloppy game when it comes to penalties. Just a lot of bad penalties for both sides. Drive killing penalties, drive extending penalties. Both teams. It was a horrible game when it came to flags. 31.5-yard average per punt for Southern. 36.7 for Prairie View. Southern 4 of 15 on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down, 3 for 3 in the red zone. They had 6 sacks as a defense. Prairie View 5 of 15 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down, 2 for 3 in the red zone, and they had 2 for 3 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks. Individually, Noah Biden 16 of 29 for Southern, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack. Peters 9 of 20 for Prairie View, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 6 sacks. Dillon led Southern with 8 carries for 77 yards. Also, Rhymes at 12 for 55 and a touchdown. Russell 6 for 42 and a touchdown. Peters led Prairie View with 19 carries for 37 yards. McDowell had 8 for 21 and a touchdown. Bingman had 4 carries for 23 yards. Fuller led Southern with 3 catches for 52 yards. Whitfield 2 for 51 and a touchdown. Cavill led Prairie View with his 1 catch for 72 yards and a touchdown. Spiller had 4 receptions to lead the team for 53 yards. Brister led Southern with 11 tackles. Jelani Davis, 3 tackles for loss to lead Southern. He also had 2.5 sacks. So that was a really good game for him. 7 tackles as well. So big game for him, giving 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. Bryce Turner led Prairie View with 9 tackles for loss. Fred Stokes had 3 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. So he had a huge game for Prairie View. But they just could not, outside of a couple big plays that they hit offensively, they just could not get any offensive rhythm consistently. And the fact that they still can't run the ball great is really hurting this team. I felt like whoever ran the ball well in this game will win it. And I think Southern was able to, especially in the second half, they were able to find something that worked on the ground, and they stuck with it. and they were able to come back and win this game. So big win for Southern as they pick up their first conference win on the season, and they go into a bye week. Prairie View plays Grambling on Saturday, so they are 0-2 in conference, and they have another big game in conference play next week, and they're taking on a Grambling team who won a big game against Jackson State, 41-20. I favor JSU in this game. Grambling, they did what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, and that's forcing turnovers and scoring on those turnovers. They had a pick six in the second quarter. Um, that gave them that helped them extend their lead. They had a scoop and score in the third quarter, which kind of JSU was kind of making a run. They were down 21-20. JSU fumbles, all Grambling scores on that, goes up 28-20, and JSU would not score again. So really strong defensive effort for Grambling. Hargrove had a seven-yard run to open up the scoring for Grambling, put them up 7-0. Waters would catch a 22-yard pass from Crowley to put the Tigers up. Tigers are Grambling up 14-0. Jonas Fortillion would catch a 70-yard pass from Cameron McCoy, 14-7. Travis Terrell will get a 33-yard run for TSU. No good on the conversion, 14-13. And then Grambling would get a pick six to go up 21-13. JSU would get a Dupree 66-yard pass from Morgan to make the score 21-20. And then, like I said, Grambling had that scoop and score to go up 28-20. Hargrove will get a 35-yard touchdown, a 1-yard touchdown run to go up 35-20. And then 2 field goals late in the game, one from 29 and one from 32 to make the final margin 41-20 for Grambling. Jackson State finished with 16 first downs, Grambling 17, 159 yards rushing for JSU, 31 carries, 5.1 yard per carry, and 1 touchdown. I said on SWAC Smoke, if Grambling can hold JSU to under 150 yards rushing, they had a good chance of winning. They finished with 159, so that ain't that far off. But I felt like if JSU could run the ball really successfully, I thought they had a great chance in this game. But Grambling had a pretty solid defensive effort against them, and they were able to pull it out. Grambling only 104 yards on the ground, 2.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Run game still hasn't been clicking, but they're scoring touchdowns in the run game. So the yardage isn't there, but the points are, and you take that every time. 279 yards through the air for JSU, 13 of 29, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Grambling 167 yards passing, 16 of 28, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 438 yards of offense for JSU, 60 plays, 7.3 yards per play. They fumbled 4 times and lost 3, so 5 turnovers in this game for JSU is the difference because Grambling offensively did not have a great game. They finished with 271 yards of offense on 67 plays. They only had average 4 yards per play, and they did not turn the ball over. 2 touchdowns off of turnovers for JSU against JSU. Doesn't change the perception of the game in terms of the score, but those 5 turnovers just kills drives and 11 penalties for 111 yards. JSU found a lot of ways to hurt themselves, but Grambling was very opportunistic. They were had four penalties for 25 yards. And the one thing I will say is Grambling has not played a great game yet, but they are 3-1. So they are in a scary position if you have to play Grambling from this point on because they're only gonna improve. They're still finding their way, but they're winning games by any means, and that's scary as an opponent. So if if you still have Grambling on your schedule, you better buckle up and be ready. You better take care of football because they're gonna take it away from you and they're gonna score. So they're just getting by, and if they put it all together, they're gonna be a huge factor in this West Division. So right now, that's a huge game, huge win for Grambling. 25-yard average per punt for JSU, 40.8 for Grambling. JSU was 3 of 12 on third down, 1 of 3 on fourth down. No, they did not get in the red zone. They had 2 sacks on the night. Grambling 4 of 14 on third down. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 5 of 7 in the red zone, and they had two sacks individually. McCoy was 8 of 17 for JSU, 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks. Morgan, 5 of 12 for 139 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and no sacks. Crawley, 16 of 28, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. He was sacked twice. Martin led JSU with 8 carries for 56 yards. Terrell, 5 for 45 and a touchdown. Hargrove had 16 carries for Grambling, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fertillion had 3 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown for JSU. Dupree, 1 for 66 and a touchdown. Robinson led Grambling with 5 catches for 44 yards. Robert McDaniel led JSU with 8 tackles. Joshua Nobles had 2.5 tackles for loss and 1 sack to help lead the way on defense. Interceptions, none. Grambling was led by Andrew Jones with 11 tackles. He also had 2.5 tackles for loss and 1 sack, so that's a pretty solid game for him. Also, Bryce Cage had a sack and 1 tackle for loss. Grambling had 2 interceptions, one by Barley and one by Lee Collins. So big win for Grambling. Like I said, they just found a way to make things happen. It wasn't pretty offensively, but forcing turnovers, scoring points on defense can help you until your offense comes around. So now they are in a position where they are heading into their first conference game with a lot of momentum. They are on they're on a 3-game winning streak, so they are playing really well. They're one of the hotter teams in the conference right now. And they take on Prairie View in Dallas at the State Fair Classic on Saturday. That's a 6 p.m. kick. Alabama State is at Bethune-Cookman. Alabama A&M is at Florida A&M. Alcorn is at Valley. And JSU is at Texas Southern. Those are the 5 games for week 5. And we will be here, of course, on Wednesday to preview all that action. SWAC Smoke Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then next Sunday, we'll recap the week 5 games. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C. Wells, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.